professionals from Bartow and Cherokee counties. Please welcome Rebecca Johnston with the Cherokee Tribune, Jessica Loading with the Daily Tribune News, and Mike Garcia with AM 1450 WBHF. And now it is my pleasure to welcome to the stage tonight our moderator, Kevin Carroll. Kevin was previously with WBHF before joining WRGA in South 107 in Rome, where he handles both news and sports responsibilities. Please help me welcome Kevin Carroll.
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. Got a few ground rules to establish here before we begin. Each candidate for tonight drew a number to determine the seating order, and our format for the forum is as follows. Each candidate will have 90 seconds for an opening statement. After that, the panelists are going to be asking their questions. Candidates will each have 90 seconds to respond to each individual question. We will rotate that order, so each candidate will have an opportunity to go first. After the media panel is done, the candidates will have the opportunity to ask questions of one another. The questions to one another must be less than 30 seconds in length, and candidates again will have 90 seconds to respond to the questions that they ask of each other. Throughout the evening, there will be the potential for follow-up or further discussion at the discretion of the moderator, myself. At the conclusion, each candidate will have a 60-second closing statement. You don't have to take that long if you don't wish, gentlemen, but you have up to 60 seconds for your closing statement. Candidates, you may be wondering how you'll know how much time you have left. That is the job of our lovely Leslie Bronson there in the front row. She'll be holding up those cards for you. I think Leslie, you'll be counting down in intervals of 30 and then down to 10, correct? Yes. When it says stop, please finish that sentence and stop. Otherwise, I will have to intervene, and none of us want that, I don't think. Just kidding.
Yeah, you're a big guy.
Also, would remind the audience, please put your cell phones on silent, vibrate, turn it off, whatever you would like. And please hold your applause until the end. When the forum is completed, each candidate will have a chance to be applauded. So please hold your applause until that time. All right, let's begin. And we will start, ladies first, Jessica Loading. Have our first question.
Opening statement.
That was a test.
Failed.
I'm glad Matt is paying attention. It's more than I can say for any of you down there. We will begin with Mr. Lawford. Your opening statement, sir.
Thank you. Good evening. I'm Matt Lawfridge. Before we get started, I want to thank our host, the Cherokee Tribune, Daily Tribune, and WBHF for having this. I want to take a minute and say thank you to the audience here. You guys could be anywhere, but you chose to be here, and it just shows how much you care about this community, and so do I, and that's why I'm running for the state senate seat here. The election will be just a few weeks away, and there's a lot of issues that are going to need to be addressed, such as transportation, education, economic development, the care of our senior citizens, and government reform. But I'm going to take a quick moment to talk about only three right now. I want to start with the care of our senior citizens. I'm going to have an open door policy so that they're able to come in and talk to me about retirement benefits, veterans benefits, Social Security, because I want to be there for them when they need that voice. Education. Everybody talks about it, but what concerns me that in Georgia, half the kids that go to high school do not graduate. The standard is teach the test, and we need to localize that. And then on the economic development side, I'm a businessman, provide jobs, do payroll, and I understand what it takes to take the red tape away so we can have a platform for businesses to grow and thrive. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Lawfridge. Mr. Pullen.
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. I'm Dr. Dwight Pullen, and I want to thank y'all for coming out this evening. I want to thank our sponsors. I want to give a special thanks to my wife, Sharon, Sharon has put up with me for 34 years. We have 2 adult children and a 5-year-old grandson that we're very proud of. We're vested in this district. I have an undergraduate degree from Auburn University and graduate degrees from the University of Georgia. I'm a Tiger dog. I've lived in the district for over 25 years. I know where we've come from, and with your help, we can provide a bright future for our children and grandchildren. We will accomplish this through education, economic development, and community involvement. I have taught in Bartow, Cherokee, and Cobb counties. I've been an administrator at several schools. I was selected as the 2007 Georgia Principal of the Year. I served as chair of the City of Canton Planning and Zoning Board for 10 years. I understand the importance of quality growth. I've volunteered on many committees, including the YMCA Board of Directors. Through that, I understand by working shoulder to shoulder, we can improve the quality of life for our community. My name is Dwight Pullen, and I plan to earn your vote.
Thank you, Mr. Pullen. Mr. Nesmith, you are next.
Hi, folks. My name is Chris Neesmith. I would like to say that when I first got into this, I told people, yeah, I'm a Democrat running for state office. Usually the response was, you're what? Didn't see too many of those. But at the same time, I said, I felt like I should get in. I felt like I should be there to be able to talk about issues I don't think are going to get covered the way we want them covered. We get a lot of the same answers because we get a lot of the same point of view. I felt like I could provide counterpoint if no one else would. But when having done that, I had to get in and come up with a platform. Now that seems natural enough, but I had to stop and think about what it meant. What was I going to say? How did it relate to why I felt like I should get up and say something? And it came down to family values. And I'm thinking, family values, that everybody says that. So what do I mean by that? I mean that we live in a state and we talk about having a good business climate, reasonable wages. It's good for businesses to come down here. The question is our economy working for our families? Is it working? Is our education system working for our children? Are we going about these things the right way? We keep saying we're making progress, but here we are, how many years on, and we're still in the same boat at the bottom. And I hope to change that, and that's why I'm in this race. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Neesmith. All candidates held under time. That's a good omen for the evening, I think. Now, we will begin with questions. Ms. Lodi, you are first.
Good evening, gentlemen. We hear so much about economic development education as the top issues facing our district and our state. How do you plan to address these issues, and what do you see as the biggest challenge for the district and the state on economic development education?
Mr. Neesmith, begin.
Well, that kind of picks up right where I left off. We've gone with education and charter schools, the new thing, I guess. It's kind of a hot topic. A lot of people are of two minds about it. Again, we're addressing these issues. It's almost as if we decided, they're not working, schools are failing, blame the teachers. But our teachers are some of the best educated teachers in the nation. We rank in the top 15. So it's not our teachers. But we seem to be addressing it as if it's the system itself. So the way I look at it is we're not addressing the underlying problem. We talk about economic development. Well, it's great we can bring jobs into the state, but most of our jobs are homegrown. Are we growing good jobs? Are we growing jobs that the average Georgian can raise a family on? And we're not. There's 1 in 5 of us in poverty, and that's not because we're growing good jobs. So if we talk about economic development, we maybe need to look and see, instead of giving great incentives to big business to come in and bring a couple thousand jobs, which is great, we want those jobs, but maybe that shouldn't be our priority. We should be looking at how we can develop communities that produce good jobs, not big box stores who pay people enough barely to live, enough so that they qualify for government aid. That, my friends, is that's corporate welfare. So we need to change that model, if you ask me.
Thank you. Mr. Pullen, same question to you.
Well, it's kind of interesting that you tied those two together because I think they are naturally tied together. Quality graduates from schools encourage companies to relocate or to start their businesses in areas where they can get the quality graduates. And good companies provide a tax base that provide funding for good schools. So, they kind of work hand in hand. I think we need to fully fund education. We need to get our students back on a 180-day school year. We need to get our teachers back to 190 days of work. They need those 10 days for planning and staff development. We also need to see if we can lower the student-teacher ratio. We're not doing our students a service when our teachers are poorly prepared because they do not have the time necessary, and then they spend their time doing management duties other than instructional duties because they have too many students in the classroom. We also have to look at the economic development end of it. We need to look and see if there are state impediments that are keeping us from being able to attract business and industry, and we need to break those down. For example, recently a business was considering relocating to our district, and they went to South Carolina because South Carolina provided them some cash incentives. We were willing to provide training and development, but we couldn't use that money for cash incentives. So let's look at those impediments.
All right, and Mr. Lawford, same question to you.
Those two do tie hand in hand together. As a businessman, I see how the educational structure has failed a lot of kids that come in and ask for a job with us. They're not properly prepared, not only to speak in an interview, but to dress at the interview itself. And that starts at home as well. That's also with the culture in the classroom. If we don't have a good education system for our kids, then we won't be able to have a fertile land for businesses to know that Georgia is a great place for labor and for growth. A lot of that relies on localizing the standards and the educational structure and decisions back down to the local level. So there's a lot that ties into that question, more so than just a simple answer, but we have to make it beneficial for large companies with skilled labor, not just influx of low-paying jobs, but high-paying jobs with high skill to come to the area, and that needs to start at the educational level.
All right. All candidates have had a chance to answer that question. Mr. Garcia, you are next.
Thank you very much. I'll go ahead and stick with the education issue. Obviously, you guys all agree that it is an issue. Basically, as far as scores and whatnot, I know you mentioned that it wasn't the teachers the problem with education, and you gentlemen said that what could be the problem is the economics behind it. I'm still trying to figure out, if there's one thing that you guys would say would help improve the education in this state, or in this district really, what would that be?
And it's back to you, Mr. Lawford.
Okay. If I had to say one thing, the one thing would be getting the decisions and getting everything that's needed, the curriculum, to the local level. We have to be able to let the people that interact with the students tell from the bottom up instead of from the highest point down. For example, with Common Core, it's a one-size-fits-all type model, and that's not going to work. So what we have to do is localize the education, bring the education to a local level.
Thank you. Same question to Mr. Paul.
I know people don't like to hear it because, sometimes they accuse educators of just saying, throw money at us and we'll take care of it. I don't necessarily want you to throw money at education, but I'd like for us to get back to funding education at the level we were doing a few years ago. We fund education based on a 1985 model called Quality Basic Education, which, by the way, never was fully funded when it was implemented. And then for the last several years, we've cut billions of dollars out of education, and I know that that was needed to balance the state budget. But we've shortchanged future generations because we've increased class size, we've cut down on training opportunities for teachers, and we're just working our teachers to death. We're expecting more out of them and giving them less to work with and cutting their pay in the process with furlough days and so forth. So, you know, my one fix, as you put it, one ideal would be to fully fund education.
Mr. Neesmith?
I wish it was that easy. You know, we've thrown money at it. We throw more money at it than a lot of places. Utah doesn't even come close to what we throw at it. But they have a far better sort of return on the money they invest. Their graduation rates are better than ours. They spend what? 6,000 versus our close to 10. And that number goes back, so it may be lower yet. We're not necessarily getting the best bang for our buck. Now the question there would be why. The honest truth is, it's the home life. We have too many single parents. We have too many families that have come apart at the seams. They don't have the structure within their own communities. They don't have the support they need to go in and function and thrive. If we don't address that underlying problem, and that's far worse than having to address, you know, a few $1,000s per pupil in funding. That's something we can all do. I mean, we could say, hey, we're going to devote this money to that, we'll cut it somewhere else, and it all sounds good and everybody feels good, and we still get the same results. You know, we might go up, we might go down a little. We never really fundamentally change anything. We need to consider, what are we going to do to address the issues of poverty that plague the schools and bring everyone down. A lot of people don't want to hear that, but that's just the truth.
Mr. Neesmith, on that answer, speaking directly about the family and the family structure, to answer Mr. Garcia's question, what would you do? If that was the one thing that you're concerned most about, what is the one thing you would do to address it?
If we're going to take more money and put it into education, I think we should expand the school day possibly. Look at after-school type programs where these kids who are left behind have a place to be, instead of sitting at home without a parent who may be at a job, idling away, not losing ground over the summer while, you know, they sit at home in front of the TV and no one's around, getting in trouble possibly, winding up in prison, costing us twice as much a year to incarcerate as it is to educate.
Thank you. We now move to our final panelist here tonight, Rebecca Johnson. It's your question.
Thank you. Sticking with education for one more round at least, what is your stand on Common Core standards and why? And if not Common Core, what should the state do to improve the quality of education at the state level?
And that begins with you, Mr. Neesmith.
The way I understand Common Core is Superintendent Barge agreed to it. Since then, he's backed away from it, saying it was a mistake. It hasn't been really proven. I guess there's no direct correlation that's been demonstrated that says, you know, we apply these standards across the board, we're going to produce better results nationwide. The question would be, why are we teaching certain kids certain things? Do they need to know this much? Do they need to know more? Are we being reduced to teaching tests? I think everybody would agree we've gotten to that point. So are we really teaching them how to function in society, how to go out and survive in society, basic life skills, instead of these sort of rote, you know, type skills that they're attaining in high schools now? I don't think they're making the connection, and I don't know how valuable that is. So where it stands as far as how good is Common Core, time will tell, but we don't know this for certain, and I think I would not be comfortable saying, hey, run with it and see what we can get from it. I would be more comfortable with the idea that at the local level and even the state level, we come to some agreement about what we think we want to accomplish for each of these children as they get into the, are we preparing them, are they preparing them to live up to their full potential? We need to make it a little more personal and a little less, you know, like shuffling people through an assembly line.
All right, staying with the topic of education, Common Core, to you, Mr. Pullen.
Well, I think you're going to have standards. Now, I'm not sure Common Core is the best we can have. We need to have rigorous standards for all students. You know, I'm concerned as an educator, when I get a student that transfers from another part of Georgia, and they come in and they can't keep up with the students we already have because there's holes in their education, then, you know, I wondered what they were being taught. So, you know, we need some standards. We need some statewide standards. We need rigorous standards. You know, we have 4 wonderful school systems in this district. All 4 are functioning well above state average and above national average. Why are they doing that? It's because they take the state standards that they're given, and they add to them. They provide rigorous local standards. Now, you know, some people will tell you, well, that the Common Core is a basis, and you can put whatever you want to on top of it. We need to make sure that our local school systems are putting what's necessary on top of it to develop the standards that we need locally for our students to compete internationally.
Thank you. Mr. Loffridge, Common Core, to you.
Yeah, Common Core is kind of that one size fits all. It's like getting a baseball cap brand new that says one size fits all, and you put it on, it never fits. It's very discouraging, not only for the teachers but for the students, to where they're held on the same standard as everybody else, when really we need to be getting into a competitive spirit, making sure that our local teachers are able to get away from the shackles of assessments and regulations that keep them from creating a culture that's going to give a kid individuality. It's going to give a kid the creativity and give them a passion in the classroom. All kids are going to learn differently, but if we keep them on one Common Core path, then they're not going to be able, they all can learn, but they learn differently. So what we have to do is give the responsibility to the teacher, the person that's in there, and the way we're going to be able to be competitive is just like you do in sports. You compete against another school. Well, you can do that with your standards. You can do that with your curriculum. Why does it have to be just a set one-size-fits-all standard? Why can't we use that and compete with not only our local schools in the district, but our schools outside the district, and then statewide and nationally?
Jessica, next question.
Let's switch gears for just a second. Funding for mental health has been cut, eliminating and decreasing services across the state. More and more, our public safety is tasked with answering calls related to mental health issues. How do you believe those issues can be addressed at the local and state level?
Matt, mental health issues begins with you.
You know, I don't know, to be quite honest. What I do know, though, is that we can't take away from other things to just bring it in. So, you know, honestly, I don't know the right answer for mental health situations, so I'm not going to sit here and just make something up.
Certainly honest. Mr. Pullen, mental health and treatment, to you.
Well, unfortunately, due to the economic hard times and the state budget cuts, and I am very proud of our state for balancing its budget. You know, that's been a hard thing to do, and there's been some hard decisions that has to be made. I personally disagree with some of the closings of some of the mental health institutions around the state. One particular here close to our district in Rome that was closed recently, that was providing a valuable service to our citizens, and some of those citizens are not getting those services now. I'm not sure what the answer will be. Hopefully the economy is going to turn around and we can start funneling a little more money into that. Now, when I mention funneling money now, I'm not talking about raising taxes. I'm talking about generating more income for people so that we have more income tax revenue coming into the state. So, you know, when we get that more income tax revenue, and that'll come through these wonderful jobs we all seem to be talking about tonight. But we can't just turn our backs on the people with mental challenges. You know, sometimes their families are picking up those, but you know, there's a staggering statistic, and I can't remember the exact figure, but a large population of our homeless are mentally handicapped. So, you know, we're going to have to look at that. We're going to have to try to, you know, put some study committees together to see if we can assist in solving that problem.
And Mr. Neesmith, same question of mental health to you.
We've had a little bit of firsthand sort of experience talking with some of the providers that are out there now. When they closed some of these hospitals, basically there was no plan B. There was no place for them to go, a lot of them. There's nowhere to put them. Some they're trying to put them in homes, which I think is a good thing, because this enables them to lead fairly normal lives, be a, you know, a part of the community. Some of them are capable of doing a lot. Some of them are not so capable of doing as much, and they will always need support. Some of them are potentially a danger to themselves and others. Those people are out there too because of these hospitals being closed. So what we've done essentially is kind of cast them out because we can't afford to pay for it, but we're going to find ourselves paying for it one way or another. We're going to pay for it in, you know, an increased interaction with the police and law enforcement. We're going to pay for it by, you know, increased medical costs, because we're going to find them in the emergency room. You know, they're going to get their Social Security, a lot of them, but they're going to be on their own and they're not going to know what to do. I think the way to approach this is to invest in maybe trying to integrate them into the community as much as possible. And where needed, we're going to have to find a place for those who need supervision to live, you know, in a community, I would say. That would be the best thing.
All right, no easy answers on that topic. Mr. Garcia, the question is to you.
All right. Now, as far as the office, have you guys looked at what Senate committee or committees you guys would like to serve on, and why would you pick any of those?
Mr. Neesmith, begin with you.
I think the easy one here, and I bet he'll agree, is education. A lot of that is because I think, you know, we all tend to, it seems like we've gotten on a track here, and you know, everybody's buying in. I'm not sure this is a good way to go. We've gone with charter schools and things like that, and I'm not going to tear down any progress they've made, but they, on the whole, have not proven to really solve the issue. The ones that have are modeled. Their model is all much different than what we're seeing with your regular charter schools. These are like the KIPP schools where the kids are there to sometimes 7 o'clock at night. That takes them out of the environment that's holding them back. Again, that just leads us right back to the initial problem, the underlying fundamental problem, which is often an unstable home life and poverty. I would say we should go away from this because it's a mixed bag, and it's taking money that goes into one system, now we're splitting it into many different areas, and it's not proven to do any more good. So I would question how much energy we're putting into all this, and what's the payoff going to be. I'm not sure it's a wise move. In Cobb, I understand they're looking at going to a merit pay-based system. This is unproven, and I know that not everything has to be, you know, competitive. Sometimes we work together in a cooperative way, we find better solutions. So not every time does a business principle apply. I don't think this is one of them.
All right. Mr. Pullen, committees you would potentially want to serve on if elected?
Well, I think most senators serve on more than one committee. Having a K-12 educational background, being a former scout leader, I think that I would really enjoy being on the Education and Youth Committee. I think maybe my expertise might be valuable in that area. As a instructor with Central Michigan University, I'm very interested in higher education, so I think I would like to serve on the Higher Education Committee. Of course, you know, we're all talking about economic development in the district. So, you know, I'd love to get on that Economic Development Committee so that I would be on the cutting edge of what's going on to maybe bring some of that development home to the district. Being a former agricultural teacher, I wouldn't mind being on the Agriculture and Commerce Committee. All of those things interest me. I think I would be good at all of them. I'm pretty good at researching, so whatever committee I get on, I'll research the topic and you know, be at the top of my game when I go to a committee meeting.
All right, thank you. And Mr. Loffridge, committees you would potentially like to serve on if elected?
I'd say the top 3 committees that I'd like to be on would be financial, transportation, and benefits. Transportation, one, it's the underlying of infrastructure so that we can create economical development coming in. It's not just about the committee economical development. It's also about how we're going to make it advantageous for them to come in, for logistics, move around, and also ease of living to show that they're not just stuck in gridlock traffic, which we all know is really bad on 75 from starting at 7 till whenever. And then financial, my background, very good as a businessman, knowing how to take that to the next level. So I think that would be really good for me. And also the benefits, you know, I believe there needs to be, I can be a great voice for the senior population, make sure that there's an open door for them to make sure that whether it's retirement benefits, veteran benefits, or Social Security, they know where to come.
Okay, thank you. Now to Rebecca Johnston, your question.
Thank you. Down under the Gold Dome during the last session, there was a lot of talk about what needs to be done about ethics reform in our state. Some folks feel like too little was done. I know that there won't be the ability to get free football tickets when the legislators take office in January, but there are a lot of people who would like to see the laws strengthened, specifically those relating to campaign contributions. What should be done to strengthen our ethics laws in Georgia?
Mr. Pullen, this question is to you first.
Okay. Well, you know, and I have trouble with this because they've gotten the name so long, the Georgia Transparency in Government and Financial Reform Committee, or we used to call it the Ethics Committee.
I'm going to say that's correct.
You know, it always bothers me when you have someone to appoint a committee, and then that committee is supposed to oversee what that person does. So, you know, I have a problem with the fact that we have a committee that's appointed by the executive branch of government, and it's supposed to supervise the executive branch of government. I would propose that we have an ethics committee that is 100% independent, that's not appointed by any governmental agency. We would fund that through the campaign filing fees. You know, we have over 300 cities in the state. We have over 200 legislative people in the state legislature. We have 159 counties that have various elected officials. We could fund that easily just by charging, you know, modest campaign fees and let them supervise all of us. Now, me personally, you know, I don't plan to take personal donations. Now, if a group is taking out a group of senators, then I'll go.
Okay, thank you. Mr. Loffridge, question to you.
Yeah, thank you. I agree with, I don't agree with the appointed committee looking over. I think it needs to be some type of individual. I don't think it needs to be a fee base. I think it can be a structural board.